You're listening to The Observing Eye. Pirate radio for the mind. Coming at you fresh from the computer hell cabin.
Hello, you beautiful lot. It's Friday, the 1st of March, 2024, and you're listening to episode 54 of The Observing Eye, coming at you live, as always, from the computer hell cabin. This is the place where we peel back the skin of the human experience. We uncover the truth that drives us, that challenges us, and that ultimately shapes us. I'm David, and today we're going to be dipping our nuts into a topic that's familiar to many, if not all of us, and that's procrastination. Procrastination, the thief of time, the nemesis of productivity, perhaps one of the most universal experiences of modern life. Who among us hasn't found themselves scrolling through social media, tidying up an already tidy room, or suddenly becoming an expert in something entirely unrelated to the task at hand? All in the noble pursuit of avoiding what it is that we really need to be doing. But what lies beneath this all too common phenomena? Is procrastination simply a matter of poor time management, a lack of discipline, or is there more to the story? Today we are diving deep into the heart of procrastination, exploring not just its surface manifestations, but the psychological roots that anchor it in our lives. We'll uncover why the immediate allure of later often outweighs the rational desire to start now. We'll explore how fear, perfectionism, and the quest for instant gratification intertwine to create the perfect storm for procrastination to thrive. And yes, we'll acknowledge how all of this digital nonsense around us with its endless stream of distractions has become a fertile ground for procrastination to bloom. But fear not, dear listener, for this episode is not just an exploration of procrastination's grip on our lives. I'm also here to arm you with some strategies, some tools, and some insights that can help you break free from its hold, enhance your productivity, and maybe, just maybe, make peace with your to-do list. So whether you are listening to this episode as a form of procrastination, no judgment, or you're genuinely seeking ways to overcome it, you are in the right place. Let's pull back the veil, uncover the secrets of moving beyond procrastination, and step into a more focused, fulfilled version of ourselves. So I'm going to start at the very beginning, which is always useful, isn't it? I'm going to talk about what we mean when we say the word procrastination. It is a word that we oft throw around very casually, but what does it actually encompass? Now, procrastination is not just about being lazy or disorganized. In fact, I would argue heavily against referring to it with the word lazy at all. It is far more nuanced than that. At its core, procrastination is the art of delaying or postponing tasks. But it's not just any delay. It's a voluntary one, where we choose to put off tasks, despite knowing that we're going to be worse off for doing so. It's the paper that we push to the last minute, the email that we keep marking as unread, or even that morning jog that we skip for just a few more minutes under the covers. You might think, well, isn't procrastination just another word for being lazy? Lazy. The answer is a resounding no. Laziness implies a lack of desire to work or exert effort, whereas procrastination is an active process. You decide to do something else in place of the task you're avoiding. It's not an absence of action, but rather a misdirection of energy. Now, procrastination is a terrifyingly common behaviour. Whether it's a student delaying their study for exams, a professional pushing back on a project deadline, God damn it, the words, or even someone avoiding making important life decisions. You know who you are. Procrastination knows no bounds. It spans the ages, it spans the professions, and it spans personalities. Like the honey badger, it doesn't give a shit. But why do we procrastinate? On the surface, it might seem like we're avoiding the task at hand, but often we're avoiding something much deeper. It's the emotion associated with that task. Fear of failure, fear of success, perfectionism, or even just the discomfort of starting something new can lead us all to procrastinate. Understanding procrastination requires us to look beyond the mere act of delay and into the complex interplay of emotions, motivations, and even our environment. It's a behaviour deeply rooted in our psychological makeup, influenced by factors both within and outside of our control. As we delve into today's topic, please keep in mind that procrastination is not an indictment of your character, but a universal experience that can be understood, managed, and even overcome. And that's exactly what we're going to explore together in this episode. So now that we've established what procrastination is, let's look at some of the psychology behind it. Why do we find ourselves caught in this cycle of delay, even when we know it's against our best interests?
It's a trap!
Procrastination is often misunderstood as a simple lack of willpower or time management, but at its core is deeply rooted in our psychology. It's not just about the task at hand, it's about how we feel about the task, how we manage the emotions around it, and how we perceive our ability to handle it. One of the primary psychological factors at play is the concept of instant gratification. So our brains, the wonderful things that they are wired to prioritize immediate rewards over future benefits. This means that when we're faced with a choice between doing something pleasurable now or tackling a less enjoyable task with future benefits, our instinct is to choose the immediate pleasure. Another key factor is our fear of failure. This fear can be paralyzing, leading us to avoid starting a task that we're not confident about. The irony is that by procrastinating, we only increase the likelihood of the very failure that we're trying to avoid. It becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy where our fear of not meeting expectations leads us to engage in behaviors that make failure more probable. Perfectionism also plays a significant role in procrastination. Many of us hold ourselves to ridiculously high standards, and the pressure to produce something perfect can be overwhelming. In an attempt to avoid producing work that doesn't meet these standards, we tend to delay starting entirely. But as we know, the perfect is often the enemy of the good. Decision fatigue contributes to procrastination as well. Every day, we are faced with a multitude of decisions, and each one depletes just a little bit more of our mental energy. By the time we get to the tasks that we are less enthusiastic about, we may simply just not have the cognitive resources left to be able to engage with them. It's also important to consider the role of our self-identity and how we tie our self-worth to our achievements. For some, the possibility of failing at a task isn't just a setback, it's seen as a reflection of their worth as a person. This creates a high emotional stake in every endeavour, where the fear of failure is not just about the task, but about what failure says about them. Understanding the psychology of procrastination can give us an insight into not just why we procrastinate, but how we can begin to address it. By recognizing these underlying factors, we can start to develop strategies that tackle procrastination at its roots, rather than just hacking away at the symptoms. But what sort of impact can procrastination have on us in the long term? Well, although it seems benign in the moment, it can ripple through our lives in a very profound way, affecting things like our mental health, our personal achievements, and even our relationships to an extent. First and foremost, the impact of procrastination on mental health cannot be overstated. It's a source of significant stress and anxiety for many. The cycle of delaying tasks, the subsequent rush to meet deadlines, and the guilt and self-reproach and the whole flagellation thing that follows can create this constant state of tension and worry. Over time, this can lead to chronic stress, affecting both our mental and physical health. But the consequences extend far beyond our internal world. Procrastination can severely impact our personal and professional lives. In the academic realm, it's associated with lower grades and higher levels of frustration with schoolwork. Professionally, it can lead to missed opportunities, poor performance reviews, and a reputation for unreliability. These outcomes not only affect our current situation, but can also influence future prospects. The quality of our work suffers as well. When we procrastinate, we often rush to complete tasks at the last minute, leading to subpar results. This hurried, often panicked approach to work can prevent us from producing our best stuff. stunting our growth and hampering our development. Hampering our development. It's a paradoxical situation where our fear of failure, this driving force behind procrastination, becomes more likely because we didn't give ourselves adequate time to do the stuff that we needed to do in the first place. On a personal level, procrastination can strain relationships. It's not just about missed deadlines at work or school. It's about the promises that we make to ourselves and others. When we procrastinate on personal commitments, it can lead to feelings of guilt and disappointment, not just from others, but also in how we view ourselves. Over time, this can erode trust and diminish our sense of self-worth. Moreover, chronic procrastination can lead to a perpetual cycle of unfulfilled potential. Many of us, I think pretty much all of us who will be listening to something like this, have dreams, goals, and aspirations, all of which require time, effort, persistence, and consistency. Procrastination can keep us stuck, always dreaming but never doing, which can lead to a profound sense of regret and the haunting question of what if, the terrible ghost of what if rattling his chains at the foot of your bed at 3 a.m., just hankering about, What if you had just finished it, David? What if you just finished that book? Where would you be now? Where would you be? Ghosts aside, of course, it's important to remember that while the impact of procrastination can be very far-reaching, understanding these consequences is the first step towards change. Like all things, self-awareness is key. By recognizing the ways in which procrastination affects our lives, we can begin to take proactive steps to mitigate these impacts and move towards a more productive, fulfilling life. Now, if you've been here before, you'll know that I really like philosophy. So I try and slip a little bit of philosophy into the mix. So I thought I'd talk about what philosophy has to say about procrastination, because there's always wisdom in old things and books and stuff that other people have said. So I want to turn to the enlightening world of philosophy for a minute. Unsurprisingly, people haven't just started procrastinating in the 20th, 21st century. People have been procrastinating for as long as people can remember. Since people could write, they procrastinated about writing the things that they needed to write about. So as a result, thinkers from various cultures and epochs, that's a wonderful word, isn't it? Epoch, I'm bringing that back, have pondered over human behavior, including our tendency to delay and defer action. We're going to explore a little bit how different philosophical traditions view procrastination and what lessons we can draw from them. Now let's begin with the Stoics, some of my favourite philosophers. The ancient Greeks who are renowned for their practical advice on living a virtuous life. Stoicism teaches us the value of self-control and the importance of focusing on what is within our power. Marcus Aurelius, a very famous Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, advised against wasting time in idle pursuits, emphasizing the brevity of life and the duty to use our time wisely. From a Stoic perspective, procrastination can be seen as a failure to align our actions with our rational understanding of what is good and within our control. The Stoics also offer a tool to combat procrastination. It's called the premeditation of evils, or premeditatio malorum. A bit of like Harry Potter wizard spell casting for you. Premeditatio malorum. This practice involves visualizing the potential negative outcomes of continuing to procrastinate, not to induce fear, but to prepare the mind for action and to remind ourselves of the importance of using time wisely. It's a powerful reminder that time for action is now and not tomorrow. Turning to Eastern philosophies with a dash of Expelliarmus, we find a very different but complementary perspective. Buddhism, for example, teaches the importance of mindfulness and living in the present moment. Procrastination in this context can be viewed as a form of aversion, a desire to escape the discomfort of the present task for future pleasure. Mindfulness encourages us to face this discomfort directly, to observe it without judgment, and to take action in the present moment. In Taoism, we find the concept of Wu Wei, which means non-action. And at first glance, it seems a little bit of an endorsement for procrastination because, non-action, procrastinate kind of has a similar vibe. However, this is not what Wu Wei means. Wu Wei is about effortless action in harmony with the Tao, or the way of the universe. It suggests that when we align our actions with the natural order of things, our tasks can be carried out without unnecessary strain or struggle, unlike my attempt to speak the words of this episode. This principle can be applied to procrastination by suggesting that sometimes our resistance to action is a sign that we're going against the natural flow, and that realignment can lead to a more effortless approach to our duties. In modern philosophy, the existentialists remind us of the freedom and responsibility we bear for our lives. Procrastination can be seen as a form of bad faith, an avoidance of confronting the true nature of our freedom and the responsibility we have to live authentically. Jean-Paul Sartre and other existentialists would argue that procrastination is a way of deceiving ourselves about our own freedom, a refusal to act despite knowing that only through action can we define ourselves and give meaning to our lives. That's the third episode in a row I think I've mentioned Jean-Paul Sartre, and I don't even like French nihilism. So there we go. That's something to say about it. That's how important, this is to me, that I'm talking about Sartre for a third week in a row. I haven't started smoking and drinking black coffee and just pining out of the window, gazing at the rain, imagining the futileness of my existence and how all existence ends in annihilation. But anyway, shall we move on? From the Stoics to the existentialists, and through the lens of Eastern philosophy, we can see that procrastination is not just a modern dilemma, but a timeless challenge to living a meaningful and virtuous life. Each of these philosophies offers us unique insights into how we might confront and overcome our tendency to delay, reminding us of the power and responsibility we have to use our time wisely and act in accordance with our values. So that's some philosophy around procrastination. How about some strategies to overcome it? That's why you're here, isn't it? Skip to the end. We just want to get to the strategies. How do I fix my procrastination? It's one thing to understand it, isn't it? And it's another thing to kind of move beyond the world of procrastination. So I've got a list. I've got a list of things that I'm going to talk about that we can try and use to overcome the terrible inertia that procrastination places upon us, and be a little bit more productive, basically. So this is a list that I would use myself. So it's tried and tested by someone who was a prolific procrastinator. So hopefully these will be useful to you as well. Let's have a little scroll down the list and see what we've got. So number 1, break things down into smaller steps. One of the most effective ways to combat procrastination is by breaking down overwhelming tasks or seemingly overwhelming tasks into smaller, more manageable bits. This approach, often called chunking, not throwing up in the toilet at 2 a.m, chunking, I'm chunking. Chunking makes it easier to start and maintain momentum. I've given myself the giggles now. Chunking, each small chunk, you're going to remember this one though, you're going to remember it. Each small chunk completed is a victory. It's a victory, building your confidence and diminishing the intimidation factor of the task at hand. Then we have the 5-minute rule. Now, the idea here is quite simple, but it is powerful. Commit to working on a task for just 5 minutes. Very often, and I know that I find this sometimes, the hardest part is getting started. Once you're in motion, once you've kicked the inertia, you're going to find it easier to keep going. This technique leverages the psychological principle of inertia and can turn a moment of motivation into a productive session. So, I start with the idea that I'm just going to do 5 minutes, and then you end up doing an hour or 2 or 3 or whatever it rolls into, I should say. So, thirdly, set clear deadlines. Without a sense of urgency, procrastination can very easily take hold. Setting your own deadlines, even for tasks that don't have them, can create a sense of urgency that helps propel you into action. Be realistic but firm with these deadlines and hold yourself accountable, or ask someone else to hold you accountable as well. Don't ask your cat, because cats are really shit at holding anything accountable, including themselves. Right, eliminate the next one. Eliminate distractions. We know this. This is inherently common sense. In our digital age, the bloody digital age, distractions are merely like they're in front of us, aren't they? They're a quiet vibration upon our thighs from the phone in our pocket. They are there haranguing us constantly. So we need to actively manage our environment to minimize distractions and significantly reduce our procrastination. This is going to mean doing things like turning off notifications, using apps that limit your time on social media, or creating a dedicated workspace that encourages focus. So I am fortunate to have a dedicated workspace. I am at the work desk, and only work happens at the work desk. I don't eat here. I don't like fuck about on social media. This is the space. So yeah, that helps. And I do put my phone on do not disturb mode when I'm getting on with stuff during the day, so that I don't think about it and it doesn't ping at me. So that's that. I find this getting rid of distractions for me is a real life changer. I guess that's the right phrase to use, life changer for this stuff. I'm going to bring this in because I mention this every episode, and those of you that follow this podcast fairly regularly are just going to get utterly sick of me saying it, but tough shit. And I'm going to remind you to practice self-compassion. Being hard on yourself or past procrastination only serves to create a negative emotional state that can actually increase the likelihood of you procrastinating again. So in this case, past performance does impact future results. If you kick yourself for procrastinating, then you're just going to keep doing it. So we want to be a little bit compassionate with ourselves, and we want to acknowledge that the feelings of guilt or stress that we have, we can look upon them without judgment, and that we have to remind ourselves that we have a constant stream of new opportunities to make different choices, and those moments are now, basically. And also to remind ourselves that we're human beings trying our best to have a human experience. And sometimes, we don't necessarily make the best choices. And that's also part of the human experience. So please try and be a little bit kinder with yourselves around this stuff. And, I've said this before, but flagellation was banned by the Catholics in the 16th century, I think it was. So you shouldn't be doing it either. If the Catholics have banned it, you certainly shouldn't be doing it. So think about that for a moment. Check yourself before you flagellate yourself. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to give you one more of these things to think about. And this one's good. This is find your why. Find your why. I think it's always useful to have some meaning, some point to doing it, isn't it? Otherwise we are just going to, why are we doing it in the first place? I think it's important to connect the task to a larger goal or value, which is why having something like a manifesto or some sort of plan is useful. Understanding why a task is important to you can provide the motivation needed to move forwards, because it's not just a superfluous exercise, We want to try and connect a task, a thing, the object of procrastination, to our deeper goals and aspirations, and try and make something that's even mundane seem significant and worthwhile us pursuing, essentially. So there we are. There are some things to think about to challenge your procrastination, some strategies you can employ. They are practical, I hope, that when applied are going to transform your thinking around tasks and help you to overcome some of that procrastination. I'm going to have to drop you a reminder. I've got this in my notes in front of me, that remind audience it's about progress, not perfection. And I think that's very true with most things that we do. It's about progress, not perfection. So we're going to start wrapping this up now. You'll be very sad to hear, please don't go, David. Stay and tell us a bedtime story. Give us your dulcet tones. Well, I'm not. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Weirdly, I'm not just going to break into your house and read you bedtime stories while you sleep. That's almost as bad as the ghost of what if jangling my chains by your bedside. No, I'm going to encourage you instead to ignore that previous statement, lest I get banned by YouTube or wherever this appears. I'm going to encourage you instead to choose a strategy that we've talked about to focus on this week. I'm going to ask you to take a note of any changes in your behavior or mindset based upon one of these strategies that you've picked from what we've just talked about. And I want you to make sure that you are not being concrete in your approach. So adjust it accordingly. Adjust it to suit, because this is about what works best for you. These are some ideas I have that work for me. You are not me, and I'm sure you're very thankful for that. So there are some ideas here that I find useful and might be useful to you, but The whole point of these episodes are that they are a starting block for you to explore and understand and investigate yourself and to understand your own unique human experience, your own unique reality around this stuff. So that's my intent. So I'm hoping that, you can take something from here, you can adapt it, you can modify it, and it's going to be useful to you, essentially. So take something, try it out, adjust, adapt, iterate, continue, and just make a note, observe what your behavior is, essentially. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is all I have to say on the subject of procrastination. We've navigated some philosophical underpinnings. We've looked at the psychological roots. We've covered some strategies to address this all too human experience. All too human. It's been an exploration, as always, and one that I hope has shed some light in the shadows of delay and hesitation that we all at times find ourselves caught within. Procrastination, as we've discovered, is not a matter of poor time management or a lack of discipline. It's a complex interplay of emotional and cognitive processes. But perhaps the most empowering takeaway from today's discussion is the understanding that we are not at the mercy of our procrastinatory tendencies. Armed with awareness, philosophical insights, practical strategies, we can confront and curtail the habit of postponing our lives. Whether it's adopting a stoic mindset to focus on what's within our control, practicing mindfulness to stay present within our tasks, or breaking down our goals into manageable chunks. Chunking! The tools to overcome procrastination. I should probably come back from the microphone when I do that, shouldn't I? Chunking! God, where was I? The tools for breaking down our goals. No, I've done that. The tools to overcome procrastination are within our reach, as you'll be pleased to hear. It's about making that choice every day to take one step forward, no matter how small that step might be. Oh, we went a little bit silly there, didn't we? Anyway, I want to thank you all for joining me on this deep dive into procrastination. As always, your presence and time are deeply appreciated, and it is my hope that you have found solace in knowing that you are not alone in this struggle, and some inspiration, hopefully, in the strategies that we've shared in this episode. Procrastination is a part of the human condition, but it doesn't have to define us. With each action we take, we carve out a path towards a more engaged, productive, and fulfilling life. If today's episode has resonated with you, sparked a thought, or inspired a change, I'd love to hear from you. You can share your stories, your victories, however small they might be, against the pull of procrastination on our Substack, which you can find at theobservingeye.com, or on social media. You can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/@theobservingeye, and on TikTok and Instagram with the handle @theobservingeye as well. Until our next episode, stay curious, stay motivated, and remember that you only have control over yourself and your reactions to the world at large. Take care, everybody. Much love, and I'll catch you soon.
You've been listening to The Observing Eye. Thanks for spending some time with me today. I hope that you found it useful. And if you're interested in any more of my writings or work around psychology and philosophy and general day-to-day living, please go and take a look at my Substack, which is theobservingeye.substack.com, and that's I as in the letter, not I as in the gelatinous organ through which you see. Take care, everybody. Much love, and I'll see you soon.